Hello, friends. I can see that some of you are already online. We have 1 minute to go. We'll give everybody a little bit of time. There were quite a few registrations, so let's wait a little bit for that. Meanwhile, I wish you all a happy new year. Those who can read this, I hope. Let me know if you can watch this on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, whatever is your choice of channel. I made it available on all three channels. And we will add more as we go along and see what works best for everybody. Right. So we're sharp at 6 p.m. India time, and I'll start the roundup in a little bit. I hope everybody is safe and the new year has really started well for you. Obviously, all of us wanted to forget the last year in many ways, but here we are in a totally new year. Let's see how it goes. I can see some people showing a like button, looks like from Facebook. So all good. Hi, Priya. Happy New Year to you as well and everyone. Okay, let's jump into the show. I think I don't plan to take the whole hour that I booked. This is pretty much a new format for me as well. And hi, Hari. Happy New Year to you as well. The reason I say new format is because usually I record over a platform and then make the recordings available in podcast and video format. But new year, new format. So I thought, let me try something new. So what is the new part? This is the new part that I will live stream all episodes going forward, as long as they fit, of course, the time zones, right? So sometimes the speakers are international and may not fit India time zone. So yeah, I can see quite a few happy new years. Hi everyone, Hari sir, Hariharan sir, happy new year to you as well. And yeah, keep joining. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, so that's the broad reason why I thought let's do a live show. And in the next few episodes, we will be calling in guests as well, right? So this being the first show of the year, I have decided that I'll do a roundup of the last few episodes. And many of you had actually asked that, you did not catch up on all the episodes, so would like a summary. Some of you got to know of the episodes much later, and so on. So all that. Right. So why manage better? All right. Let's dig a little deeper. Some of you have asked, is manage better anti-leadership? Am I against leadership that I'm proposing good management now? Not at all. In fact, not just me. Very, very accomplished authors like Henry Mintzberg, Ram Charan, and all have all been talking about effective and good management is as important as good leadership is, right? And not everybody, not every role has a leadership opportunity or a potential. And I know that all the bit about that everybody is a leader for their 2 square feet and all that stuff, that is fine, right? But at the end of the day, all of us have to get some work done, and most of that work gets done through good old school effective management practices. So my effort is primarily to address that population and say that, okay, what are the ways in which we can all get better at what we do, right? And obviously it doesn't just include work, it goes beyond work and in other spheres of life. I'll soon be bringing a world-class coach, endurance coach, to my show. And public speaking I've already covered. So various spheres of this thing, including a nutritionist, you will get to see this year in the next few weeks. So all this is related to managing better, getting better. Right? So wherever we are, and I keep saying this, those of you who may have seen my shows would know that what I keep saying is that none of us control where we landed in life, but all of us control where we are and where we can go, right? So that's the theme of this whole thing, that where can we go from where we are is the theme of the show, right? So And just a little bit about the show. Of course, the show is hosted on YouTube. It is available as a recording on LinkedIn, and as a podcast is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher, and several other associated podcast players. So, whatever is your choice of podcast players, you could get this show. You just have to search for "Manage Better" with Anshuman Tiwari, and you should be able to get to my show and subscribe to it. And of course, YouTube goes without saying. If you like the show, subscribe so that you can get all the alerts for the new shows that come. Okay, so let's dive in then. So 2020, of course, didn't go to plan. At the beginning of 2020, in my first post of 2020, I had suggested 5 questions, and some of them may sound a little bit ironic today because of the year that we had, but you fast forward the year, those questions still apply. So let me take you through a rewind of those questions. So the first question is, when you look at your year, ask yourself, did I make an impact? Right. So did you make an impact through the year? Ask yourself, nobody else. Right. Secondly, did I make my boss do well? If you don't make your boss do well, if you can't do that through the year, you are on a sticky wicket. Right. So that was second question. Third was, did I learn something new, something that I haven't done earlier, right? So that was more or less the theme for the year. Many of us would have learned something new given the time that we had, additional time that we had through the year. And did I invest in my network, right? Some weeks ago, I brought in a speaker on networking, and I'll be again bringing one in a few weeks' time. And ever so, if we didn't realize the power of our network, I'm sure you realized it during the lockdown, because your network kept you going. And network is not just to find your next job, it is also to keep you sane and keep you going, right? So the other last question was, did I go beyond my role, right? Many of us don't look at this question very carefully, and don't kind of uh, think of our role, what impact we made, and everything, and don't look at the entire role, and don't think as to what did I do beyond my role. So that is extremely important, right? And so that was my first post, right? And that you can still go back to that post, and some of you want that post, I'll let me know. I'll hand it over again. It is the first podcast that I did early last year, I think exactly 1 year back. That was the first podcast. Many of these questions might have remained unanswered. That's why I'm saying these questions are still relevant for you today. And whatever be your role, whatever work you're doing, I think that is important. Keep your comments coming. I will try and keep flashing your comments on the screen so that other viewers can also benefit from your views. Hariharan sir, thank you very much. Nice comment. And of course, in some time, as I round up the show, I'll also open for questions if you have. Right. So we don't have to hate 2020 anymore. It is gone. So what do we do in 2021? And these questions therefore point you to a better 2021, right? There are quite a few things happened really well. One, I keep saying that we covered a decade's journey in weeks, right? So what digital changes or online stuff could have happened in 1 year, 1 decade, actually happened within weeks, right? So if somebody would have asked you in February or March, would you be working from home all year? Would you be doing a lot of online courses? Would you be listening to a guy called Anshuman Tiwari on a live LinkedIn live channel? All the answers would have been no. But here you are at the end of the year, and all the answers are yes. So this would have been possible not within a decade. You have already done it in a few weeks. That's what disruptive occasions do. So coming to the first guest that I spoke to last year was Karmit Berdugo Cohen, and Karmit is a quality professional, very senior quality professional from Israel. She's dedicated her life to making quality more interesting and for the new generation. So she comes up with a lot of I would say infographics and game-based methods. Check her out on LinkedIn, Karmit Berdugo Cohen from Israel. She set up a new format called Collaborator, spelled with Q and where she shares a lot of best practices from quality experts. So she spoke about how she got into quality, and the journey was fascinating, and why she thinks quality is still relevant and can make a lot of difference. So that was a very engaging first session that I had, and I distinctly and fondly remember that session for the book recommendation that Carmit made, and I'll repeat it for you. The book is called Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, uh, spelled as Ruiz. So Don Miguel is a very popular philosophical writer, and the book Four Agreements is a fascinating way to look at your life in obviously, as the word says or the book says, four ways. Next was March. March is International World Women's Day, or 8th of March is International World Women's Day. And I thought, let me use this opportunity to speak to somebody who's doing a lot of work in that section. So I spoke to Geeta Kannan, and Geeta was very generous with her time, and she spoke very, very passionately about why women are particularly in workplace. Of course, her work is more in and out of the workplace as well, but we spoke more of the workplace. Why it's a very, very challenging life, particularly in the Indian context, because women are expected to be this, homemaker as well as the efficient and professional worker at work. And she brought out a lot of challenges and strategies. I would suggest you check her work at Wiquity. Her firm is called Wiquity, WEQIUITY .tech. Some fascinating work they are doing. They identify and recognize women leaders and have plans and programs on helping women get better at work. So again, the theme was, how do we get better? And of course, just because March was a nice coincidence for me that it was International Women's Month, I thought it would be very apt. So this was, I think, one of my most useful conversations in many ways, I would say. In April to July, there was a little bit of a, everybody was looking at what next and, who's what to do. So I took a break, and quite a lot of people suggested that, this is the time, I went on YouTube. So till then, all my episodes were on podcasts. So, and as you know, podcasts are basically audio versions, and you don't get the video part. So Hemant Dureshe, a good friend, quality professional, leading quality professional from Pune, was my first guest on YouTube, and of course, the YouTube recording was also available as a podcast. So it isn't just a YouTube video. Hemant is an ASQ fellow, and from I think 2013. And incidentally, Hemant and I received our fellowship of ASQ in the same year. But he's far more senior and accomplished compared to me. And he's had a glittering career in quality. He's probably the first ASQ certified black belt and master black belt from India. Right, so that's quite a bit. He spoke about why Six Sigma is still relevant and can still be used, provided we know where to use it. So he proposed a diagnostician-based approach, saying that we should know where the process is repeatable, where the volumes are high, problem is known, solution is unknown, and these 3-4 conditions apply. That is where you can use Six Sigma, and it still makes a lot of difference. Amusingly, this episode, when it was posted on LinkedIn, got a lot of, or my first exposure to a lot of trolling. Several people across the world who don't like Six Sigma or really hate Six Sigma, they jumped upon us, and it was quite amusing to try and reply to them. Of course, beyond a point, you can't reply to anybody who's dedicated his time to trolling us. But it felt good to be trolled for some weird reason. Moving on, I spoke to Ramesh Durairaj, author of Games Customers Play, so a fascinating book. And if you haven't heard of this book, please check it out. A really nice book, Games Customers Play. And it is, and Ramesh, interestingly, Ramesh was with Wipro and other leading companies and at Infosys as well. And he brings in, particularly from a tech sales point of view, technology sales point of view, what does it take for why do customers behave this certain way or don't behave in a certain way, and the skills around negotiation, and he was interesting, very interesting, because he's also from a quality background, right? So he brings the quality background into sales, and obviously brought in that academic rigor that most quality professionals can bring. And his four quadrants on and related concepts on buyer seller relationship, including the buyer tyranny, right? So you will, some buyers flex their muscles way beyond they should, of course, till the time they can. And this was one of my favorite episodes in terms of understanding customer behavior. Next up was very, very interesting. I would strongly recommend you check this video out on YouTube. This was one of our most popular videos with India's top executive coach on executive presence, Sheetal Kakkar Mehra. Sheetal trains and coaches CEOs on executive presence, right, and potential CEOs also on executive presence. And she was generous again with her time and shared a lot of her experience on how senior people try and improve their executive presence. And as you may know, that executive presence is an important aspect of professional life these days. And she's come up with, after years of research, she's come up with a formula called POISE formula, POISE. You can check it again out on my YouTube channel or on LinkedIn, or reach out to Sheetal herself. The 5 elements of the POISE formula are physical presence, so refining your body language skills, online presence, building your global personal brand, influencer presence, how do you master influence and get better at that, and how do you speak up, right? Stage presence, right? So stage presence or public speaking or effective presence in a group of people, and ultimately and finally engagement presence. How do you use all this to build engagement was extremely important. So I love this episode quite a bit, and this was new to me. This was different for me. I learned, I would say, the most in this session, because this is something all of us could do with, right? So this was interesting, and so like I said, those of you who want to know more about this POISE formula or Sheetal's episode, please check out the podcast and YouTube thing. My next guest was a good friend, Debashish Sarkar. Debashish Sarkar is again an ASQ fellow, and also Figgenbaum Medal winner from ASQ, and a Simon Collier Award winner, which is one of the highest awards of the American Society for Quality. So he is truly a legendary quality professional, and we had a good discussion around the state of quality, and particularly around how quality and customer centricity are important. So he now runs, of course, a consulting firm around customer centricity, and it was very fascinating to see the connection between quality and customer centricity, right? So again, fascinating anecdotes, and I think this was one of the few episodes where a person had moved from one domain to another domain, and so that was extremely interesting. By now, I think my channel and podcast had started gaining some traction, and I was quite delighted, because when you start something like this, you don't know where it will go. I spoke, and by the time there were also requests on what we should do, or what better topics we could come up with. So I do remember, reaching out to some, and one of the first ones I brought in from a transformation point of view, the next 2 were on transformation, was Nigel Adams. Nigel is a transformation consultant based in Melbourne, and he's had an excellent stint with some world's leading banks. And he's also an author of an excellent book called Match Fit for Transformation. So if you're looking for a transformation book or book on transformation, he's written an excellent book on how to prepare for transformation, right? So the book is not so much about the transformation journey, but is also about the preparation required for the transformation journey. So he's obviously no guesses for knowing that he's a cricket fan, because Match Fit for Transformation, if you notice, comes from that moniker. Of course, Match Fit is true for any sport that you may want. So he's shared a lot of examples from his technology and operations background, and I found that extremely fascinating. One one formula he shared was very interesting, was consolidate, standardize, simplify, re-engineer, and automate. I'll repeat: consolidate, standardize, simplify, re-engineer, and automate, in that order. So if you have a troublesome process, you consolidate the processes, you standardize them, you simplify them, you try and re-engineer. If everything fails, you automate. So he was one of the few people who said that don't try and automate at the beginning, right? So that was interesting, I thought. And around this time, and there was such a demand for also quite a few of my viewers had spoken about, something like, can we get something on digital transformation, right? So I spoke to a guest, Nina Mulhazan. Nina is again a consultant based out of Melbourne, and this was only coincidence that Nigel and Nina both are from Melbourne. But before I get there, I think I remember quite one very important anecdote. So those of you who are bookworms or bibliophiles or love books will be pleased to know that Nigel suggested two very interesting books. And the one book he suggested was Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. Of course, many of you might have heard. And he said transformation professionals can learn a lot from this, that not everything has to be frameworks and complicated program plans. You can have a checklist and still get a lot of stuff done. And the second book was Alice in the Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. So I have never met a person who could suggest these two books in the same sentence, right? So that was very unique of that session, I would think. And so moving on to Nina Malaisan. Nina, as I said, is a leading digital transformation consultant out of Melbourne. And she, I'm reading some of the comments. So, those of you who've been saying, wishing Happy New Year, thank you very much, and wishing the same to you. Very soon we'll open for questions, so please wait for that opportunity. And the main topic of discussion with Nina was, she runs a consulting company called 36, right? Spelled as THREE, six numeral. So check it out. Very interesting digital transformation company, and they do work, of course, out of around Asia Pacific. So very, very cutting edge kind of work that they're doing. And she discussed the roadmap for digital transformation, and some of the things that she explained and were very interesting. For part one was, you don't need a definition of digital transformation, you need execution, right? So one of the first questions I had asked, how do you define digital transformation? And broadly her answer was that you don't really need a definition, you need execution. You need to get going and do something about it. If you keep defining it, keep looking for a good definition, you are only wasting time, right? The second important aspect was start small. And this was extremely important. She gave several examples, including one of a university where they started small and then built upon that. Of course, keep the plan customizable and scalable, but do that. The third extremely important one was digitization precedes digital transformation. So digitization is important. So if your records, if your data, if your process is not digitized, you will fail in digital transformation, right? So this was an extremely important insight. This goes from people who Salesforce people or people in the sales profession. When companies try and do digital transformation, them and everybody is actually filling up forms with pen and paper. How do you do digital transformation there? So you need digitization first and then digital transformation. I'm just sharing an example that we discussed. The next point you had very good one was 100-day plans work best, and of course keep learning and keep moving on. The next session was so Nina, of course, also suggested some books, but I would suggest that you hear that episode or watch it on YouTube, and check out her recommendations. Very interesting recommendations. The next episode is till today the highest hits episode. So it was with Alok Gupta. Alok Gupta is a Hong Kong-based international speaker of repute. He's a master public speaker, coach on effective public communication and speaking to very senior CEOs and global executives. And his workshops are always pre-booked and booked in months in advance. And he chose to speak to us more because he said that, look, this is a message that needs to go out to everyone. And if you get some time, check his video with me on YouTube. You will see how effectively he communicates using face and hand gestures and voice, all mixed into one extremely useful message. Right, his passion for helping people comes through when he talks to you. And he was also unique because he has transcended 5 different domains in his career. So he's not that old. He's our age, my age, and he's already had 5 different careers in 5 different industries, right? So and excelled in all of them. And now in his HR or people, um, I would say, coach avatar, he's doing really, really well. The one message that I remember most from his session, of course, this was a memorable session, but the one message I clearly remember when I asked him about what should our readers or listeners read to get better at the effective communication. His answer was that you don't learn swimming by reading a book. So what do? You speak. And what do you do? Where do you speak? So his suggestion was Toastmasters. So those of you who want to get better at speaking, I would say, go to Toastmaster. And we have on our show right now Rajkumar Bansal as well. Rajkumar is a legend in the Toastmasters area in Bangalore, and of course nationally and in some international circles as well. So those who want to know more about Toastmasters, Rajkumar Bansal is the guy. He's on the show. You can check him out on LinkedIn. Fantastic. So that was Alok Gupta's advice, and you have to watch that episode to believe. And it's a short one. It's not a very long episode, and how he demystifies everything around effective communication, and also towards the end suggested this. So this by this time I was in August, in October and all, and November is International World Quality Month, right? So I wanted to speak to a leading quality professional, and I'm Rajkumar has just shared his details, so those are flashing on the screen. Thanks, Raj. So who better to speak to somebody like Satyendra Kumar, Satyen, or Kumar as we call him. Kumar is a legend in the quality field, and he's now, of course, a quality consultant and CEO coach, but built his legacy on 2 innings that he had, one with Infosys and the other with Tata Group. Where at the Tata Group, he built what is now known as the GRDQE, or the adaptation of the Tata Business Excellence model. Of course, there were other professionals also working in the team. So, and hats off to that team who created that model, which is still helping a lot of Tata Group companies. And the other was Infosys. At Infosys, Kumar was head of quality, productivity, and tools for many years. And as my boss, he was my guru for the Malcolm Baldrige program as well. And this is a masterclass. So if you are in quality or related professions, I strongly recommend that you attend or you watch this session on YouTube, or hear to the podcast if you are the podcast type, and you will get real gems. He squarely placed the blame on the reducing popularity of the quality professionals on the quality professionals himself. Some of the things he said were like, quality professionals overanalyze and don't get on with execution. Then he also, shared one very interesting point that quality professionals don't want to meet the CEOs and CXOs to understand how the company works. And if you don't understand how the company works, you don't understand the problems that the senior leadership is facing. How will you solve those problems? So it's okay to have those, the Six Sigma program, the certification program. And yeah, the one of the points he made is also around certification, that both at company and individual level, the focus on certification is extremely disturbing, because we become overly obsessed with certification and forget the basics. So those of you who are in the quality profession or performance excellence or delivery excellence kind of function, I would suggest strongly that you see this session, or hear the podcast. There was toward the end, I asked him what book he would recommend, and his answer was very, very interesting. He said, "I won't recommend any book. I would recommend people to read business magazines, right, and international business magazines." And said the wisdom that you can get from these sessions is immense. These magazines is immense. Uh, no one book will give you the context that you need, right? So sometimes his view was that people already have the tools and methods, they don't have the context, right? And the context comes from business magazines and not from books. So take his advice. Of course, like all advice, the risk is yours. But I found it extremely, extremely interesting that he could speak about this. I think a little while ago, somebody did mention, and I'm looking at the comments. I think Aparajita mentioned networking. So if you're still around, Aparajita, then the next speaker I spoke to was Pankaj Rai. Pankaj Rai is a master networker, and the thing that I would say identifies or distinguishes him is that he is like an employee of a company like you and me, right? So many of us are working for some companies. I am working for DXC, others are working for other companies, and while working for in a regular job, he's created a reputation of a master networker, unparalleled. And he, of course, works. He's a SVP at Wells Fargo, and so I spoke to him about the why and how of networking, right? So why does it network and how? So why was interesting. I would suggest you watch the video, but the how part is very, very useful. So I will use this session to kind of give you a lowdown on the how. Firstly, he said that be of service, but have a purpose to connect, right? So, and his thing was that not everybody is interested in networking, but if you are interested in networking, you want to network, and you are waiting for somebody to reach out to you, you are wasting your time. Second, networking is not a mathematics exercise. So your give and take will not add up, right? So you will give to some, you will receive from some. Don't worry about all this. In the eventual, when you go to the Almighty and give your life's plus and minuses, it will all add up, right? So his advice was don't make it a mathematics exercise. The third was extremely important. Don't be too shy to reach out, but just don't reach out and say hi. And he gave a 3-point formula on when you reach out to people, what should you do, right? So don't immediately reach out to people and ask for a job. Don't only reach out when you need a job, though reaching out when you need a job is not a bad thing. But his view was that you have to cultivate this network, and it is not a one-time effort. Extremely interesting episode, very, very engaging episode, and I suggest you watch. And of course, connect to learn and grow was his theme, and I don't make a ritual out of it. So don't be very methodical and overly analytical that I have to ask this question first in the first 15 seconds and this question by the next few seconds and so on. That doesn't work, right? So so by this time I was in December, and Christmas time, so I thought, let me end the year with a festive spirit, and the spirit of kindness or the came to my mind, and I thought, let me speak to somebody who is doing something on kindness. It was a wild thought, and it worked. I found Nirmala Peters Mehandale. So Nirmala is the president of the World Kindness Movement. Yeah. So if you didn't know, there actually is a World Kindness Movement. So Nirmala and I had a very good conversation on why kindness is important, and it started with everyday, daily, small doses of kindness. Be kind in small things, So she even said that leaving the lift door for somebody elderly, and taking stairs yourselves, or helping somebody who needs a little bit of help in with your time, maybe, or any such thing. All this is fine. Not everybody has to be in the donation and all that mode. So the episode was extremely interesting because it gave a lot of hope to me and people like all of us who have joined this session. I'm opening the session now for question and answer. So if you have question and answers, please let them come in, because we will be ending in the next few minutes, right? So uh, this was an extremely interesting episode. Of course, this was around Christmas time, so in the video I also included a Santa Claus video, which was interesting. So all thanks to a guy called Praveen Tulpule, who does this and lives out of Mumbai. So yeah, so that kind of rounds up the year. Of course, interspersed were some of the sessions were my solo sessions, where I spoke about key concepts like runner, repeater, strangers, how you can use lean and Six Sigma in your improvement methods, what is change management, and some of these kind of things I brought up. But I'm sure if you visit the channel on our podcast, you will get to know more, right? So that was 2020, right? We are in a new year, and so apart from the live sessions, what else, right? What else is that I will be speaking to quite a few international speakers and authors, and also branching out to other streams as well. So like before we end, and like I said, we can take questions if you have any. If you don't have, that's also fine. I will leave some information on where these channels you can find. So you can find my channel on Apple, Google, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and now Stitcher as well, and very soon on Amazon also. And of course, the YouTube channel is quite easy to find. If you can't find any of this, just go to managebetter.in and you will be able to find all these sessions or videos of this thing. Yeah, so I have Nirmala, I was just talking about you, so thank you very much for joining. The world, of course, is kinder because of people like you. So Rajkumar is an extremely professional manager, and whenever you get something, do something well, his only question is what next. So he's asking who's next. So who's next is the head of innovation at Tata Group, Ravi Arora. Ravi is author of two extremely interesting books on innovation, and he will be up next Friday, 15th of January, 6 p.m. And I will, of course, post, Charan, your question. I will post this on LinkedIn as an event. So if you follow me, you will get this update. Some of who are on other medium like me, like Facebook or YouTube, you can watch this session there as well. It will, of course, always be available on LinkedIn. But if you want to join live, because live, one advantage that if you ask a question live, your question may get answered in the live session by Ravi himself. To remind, Ravi Arora, Vice President of Innovation at Tata Group, and he's the overall head of innovation and related practices for all of Tata Group, right? And extremely knowledgeable, and I would say very, very generous guy. So he will share some of the concepts that Tata Group used in furthering innovation and so on. So that's next. And in the next episode, I will announce what's after that. Okay. So Tushar, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining. If there are some last few comments, I can, or a question, I can take that. But I guess some of you have said that weekday is difficult. So yes, I get that. I will try and do some of these sessions on Saturdays evenings. I don't want to follow a ritual or a time zone because, like many of you, I also have a working job, and I sometimes job commitments will make that it will be impossible to meet the Friday 6 p.m. timeline. So yeah, Murthy sir, thank you very much. And once again, thank you very much to all those who took time to join. Thank you very much to the speakers who joined me during the 2020, and in advance thanks to the speakers who will join me this year. I already have 4 lined up. One I have already announced. The next one, there is one who's, if some of you know, um, there's a listing called Top 50 Thinkers of the World, right? So top 50 global 50 thinkers of the world. So I found one of them to speak for me in the coming up episodes. That would be hopefully interesting. And we will also have a trainer, media trainer from the US, who trains CEOs on appearing for TV and media interviews, and how those skills can be brought up into the everyday executives, right? So fabulous, I would say, the first quarter lined up, and we'll see you all. Okay, so once again, thank you very much. Thank you for staying. I will end the broadcast now. Many of you are wishing me luck. Thank you once again. And if you have any suggestions, please feel free to, most of you know me very well, so you can reach out to me with suggestions on how we can improve this further. We are all in this together. Manage Better is a collaborative exercise. I am just the front. And last reminder, of course, the channel is available as in my name, AGS Tiwari, on YouTube. I'll just flash the address. And of course, if you are the podcast type, you can check out any of your podcast channels. On podcasts, you might have to search for Manage Better with Anshuman Tiwari. And just to remind you, my podcast is now on 10th ranking in India in its category. So it's picked up well. Hopefully, you can help me get it better in the next year. So with that, I wish you luck, and you and your families Happy New Year, and a safe and maybe a less exciting 2021 compared to 2020. So with that, I'll sign off. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.